I used to make controller videos back in the day. I have a long history with every single type of controller. 4 paddles, 2 paddles, claw, single claw, double claw, Xbox, PS4, PS5. I haven't played on every controller in the world, but I do have lots of tips and probably some things that you can relate to in this video yourself. Don't forget to use code KenBeans. Check out the merch link down below. And let's hop into some controller gameplay. This is the first 2 days of not playing controller in the past like 4 or 5 months. The last time I made a controller video was a year ago. If this does well, I'll get a new controller and make more. The reason why I say new controller is because one of the biggest problems with playing controller, I have a Microsoft Xbox Elite Series 2. This thing is having so many problems. And I know it's not just this controller. There's problems with every type of controller on the market right now. What I recommend to you is to really do your research on these type of controllers before you buy some new ones. I have some stuff written out. There's around 3 things that is really hard for me on controller right now. I'm going to talk to you about why I have a slower sense than probably most people. Things I did to make the controller process easier so I did not rage when I was playing and trying to practice. And at the very end of the video is going to be a secret little tip slash hack that I specifically did in the past 2 days. Right now I'm speed running through quick clips that I had in arena, box fights, build fights, any type of creative match that I had that I thought I could teach you guys something, specifically talking about controller while fighting. Then I'll talk about all the stuff I mentioned earlier. One thing I found that I was doing a lot on controller was when I perfectly predicted someone, I noticed that when I had my friend jump into this box, caught him off guard, instead of editing on the wall that he's directly looking at, I went over to the right to get the wall on the other side. Once I took that, I didn't open an entire edit, and I in fact just did a little window edit and placed the walls right through it. On controller, I was getting really good at doing window edits and trying to piece control through that. At the beginning, you can kind of see how trash my 90s are. I'm doing everything slow and consistent, not worrying about how fast I'm doing it. Everything I preached in previous videos, I still do on controller. By far, probably one of the easiest controller type retakes. What I did was double high wall up. Then instead of trying to do anything else, I carry over my momentum to the left. I placed wall stair and cone above the box that I see him running into. Notice how once I got my shotgun off, I didn't rush into the box right away, and I played further back so I didn't get hit that hard. Playing on controller, I still know how to predict people, but the main thing I don't know how to do is kind of get builds at exactly where I want them to be. So the good thing was I predicted them, but the bad thing was that the crosshair placement was off. I didn't press my builds at the right time. This type of screwing up will get better over time. That's one thing that keeps me sane while I'm playing and I screw up, because I know that it's going to take a lot of reps to get where I want to be. This is one of the first few box fights that I had on controller. What you see me do a lot of the times, especially on controller and even on keyboard mouse, when I grab a wall, I'm playing further back because I'm ready for them to run at me, and I'm doing the edit so slow that it's consistent, because it's better to be slow and smooth than it is to be fast and mess up sometimes. Especially the first day, one thing I kind of did, which might be a little bit of a bad habit, was by instead of taking out my pickaxe, what I do is just kind of spray through the wall and use that like my pickaxe to break build. This is sometimes a good habit, but it could be bad if you run out of ammo by the time you take the wall, because then you have to reload. What I do is always edit from bottom to top. This gives me really good crosshair placement, so if that guy was in front of me, I'd already be lined up at his head. One of the hard parts about controller and playing on it is the fact about how on keyboard and mouse, you could take out your cone and not have it placed and see where it is. But on controller, you kind of have to look in the spot and just place it and just know that it's going to be there. You'll see what I'm talking about in this clip right here. When I shot this guy out, I ramped up. I saw that he was 1 box away, but I knew that he was building up because he was nervous. The second I saw my teammate's metal wall, I instantly looked to place a cone on top of that because I know this guy's going to try and be a little rat. Follow up with the wall, edit from bottom to top, and I get the kill. This is the stupidest thing that I always do on controller. This goes back even in the way back days of Fortnite. When I play controller, there's this little guy inside my head that just tells me I'll alpha up everyone if I have an SMG. It doesn't always work like that. On certain situations in Fortnite, you will not win if you just use your controller like aim assist and just go crazy. Specifically talking about this clip right here where there's 2 guys in front of me. They're running at me. They're literally in the same box. I will not win that fight no matter what I do and no matter how bad they are. In this situation, what you have to do is you have to build fight them, single one out, box one, and kill one. Or what I have to do is continuously tarp away, try to use my shotgun to get a heavy damage shot, get them to back off so I can apply pressure. If you just charge at them like I did with this controller mentality, like I'm gonna win this, you will never come out on top. Here's a really good strat that I was doing on controller that I don't do so much on keyboard because my aim isn't that strong with SMG. This guy's pushing me, he's being aggressive. I got a little chip damage shot. The best time to catch people off guard, especially on controller, is when you just create some walls for yourself. Because it's really fresh, he hasn't box fought me yet, he doesn't know how aggressive I am. So the second he runs over to try and take my wall, that's when I shove my SMG straight up his... On controller, I'm not that quick with placing builds. So one thing I did to pressure people was when I drop on this guy's box, notice how I landed on a flat because I don't know how aggressive the people are in the box are. I edit the flat just like this to try and get a shotgun shot if they did edit open. It's a very simple, easy peek that anyone can do, and it makes it really easy to keep the pressure up. I didn't sit on it long, and I run around the box so that it's hard for him to track me. On controller, controller, my mindset is to get in the box, but do it behind weak builds that just got reset. The second I saw this floor edited, I ran right through it. It takes like 3 bullets with an SMG, and your goal in duos is to knock at least one guy. Don't try and shoot 2 at once. Full pressure one so that you can quick dead someone. Here's a really good controller peek. I'm not letting the enemy put pressure on me. I'm just doing everything calm. So I roll up to the duos box. I'm shooting my SMG. I realized that they're in an awkward spot. So what I did was camp the angle I had, and I tried to take the wall from 1 box away. Notice how I kept my map out after I claimed the wall so that I could do a really smooth edit from behind this cover. Granted, these guys aren't the best, but this is how you want to approach getting better. You have to be able to clean up the bots quick before you could start practicing against people who are really crap. Day 1 and 2, I tried to free build a lot. So I'm just trying to build random stuff and edit through it because that's what I do in real games, to edit course people. On keyboard and mouse, that's practically what I do every single arena clip. This is what builds my confidence against sweaty players and allows me to get really good piece control once I get more better. But I'm still doing it on day 1 and day 2 of practicing on this controller. You know how many times I preach doing high walls and build fights and editing through? Even on day 2 of controller, the most simplistic thing you can do for yourself, I know for a fact that lots of people watching this video, you guys can throw high walls above your box, do a simple window edit, and just drag 2 cones over to the other guy's box. This is the easiest way that allowed me to get height in this build fight. All my retakes look fast when I do them on keyboard and mouse, but it's very simplistic if you see right here on controller. I'm going to talk about this, but one of the hardest things on controller is learning how to catch myself when I'm falling. Keyboard and mouse, it's so simple. All I have to do is just spam my thumb across these 2 buttons, hold turbo build, and I connect as many stuff as I want. The amount of times I died to fall damage while build fighting was ridiculous. You have to feel like that's okay though, because on controller, you'll build up the faster muscle memory if you keep practicing and don't give up. You got to be in it for the long run, especially when you play this game. I picked up this shotgun, did a simple basic peek. Even with confirm edit on release on, I still have really good crosshair placement. You see how after I did this edit, my crosshair comes down a little bit, and then I jump up and turn slightly just so ever to the right and line up a headshot. Lots of people try to tell me that confirm edit on release will not be optimal when doing this edit right here. Here's an example of me failing, getting a little frustrated when I'm doing these retakes. You can see what I tried to do was high wall 4 walls and then land on a stair. I choked the edit, I'm falling down and catch myself in just a really bad spot, I feel like. One thing I asked my chat on stream was, when you guys fall on controller, do you do walls falling down and then place a floor? Or do you do it just like I did it, where you're falling with walls and you place a stair? Because on keyboard and mouse, I use a floor, but on controller, it's a lot easier for me to use a stair because it's on opposite fingers. The easiest move you can get used to on controller, you see how this guy's at a diagonal from me? It's about as simple as high walling up, landing on a stair. Notice how I placed the stair above and below me. It's a lot easier to edit this wall if you place the stair above you. I edit through, go forward and out to the left to place the cones up and down. Then I place the wall to block any shots. I edit through, full piece him up, and my boy Justin smacks into a wall. You guys seen some of these real example clips. Those are some of the tips that I use while I'm playing in real games, and I get to show you it just like that. I'm going to answer some of the questions at the beginning of the video. First, I'm going to start out with what carried my gameplay after a long break. So for those of you who don't know, I haven't played controller in a really long time. I still play on a GMK joystick, and I switched about 4 months ago, back in November. But even before this joystick input, I can't even remember the last time I played controller. I did have a little bit of experience before that really long break, but I truly believe what carried my mechanics to be able to box people and predict people was the game sense and the amount of hours I put into versing real players. On KBM, I'm able to predict people, box them up, just do all this sorts of piece control. The mechanics is what lacks on controller, but the game sense is still there. So with that being said, I still know how to outplay people, but that's solely because, if you're wondering how to do it yourself, that's because I put in lots of hours to playing arena, creative matches against other players. And if you follow suit with the exact same thing I did, I promise you I'm not no different than you. I'm an average guy. I don't think any crazy different from you guys. So in case you didn't realize what I was talking about earlier, the hardest parts about controller is, number 1 is not being able to catch yourself when you're falling, as easy as it is on keyboard and mouse. I don't know whether or not to use a floor or whether or not to use a stair after I'm falling down with wall. I'm simply not quick enough to use a floor, so I force myself to use a stair, but I don't think it's the optimal way, and it really stresses me out. Weapon switching is probably the most annoying thing on the planet. Everyone knows that, especially if you play controller, you're 1v1ing people in creative, you use a grappler, but how many times have you shot your shotgun and switched over to the grappler and then shot the grappler at a wall, and then you're not shooting your SMG and you end up dying? I don't even have to show a clip on screen because I know everyone that's on controller knows exactly what I'm talking about. The good news is that will come with just practicing. I was only like day 2 into it. Resetting builds is the most stressful thing on the planet. After a couple years of using this controller, the paddles are mushy. I have to press some buttons harder than others. It makes the whole process really annoying, really stressful. So that in and of itself can be fixed with getting a scroll wheel attachment for the controller, or honestly just suck this thing out a window because I don't even want it anymore. One of the most important things, why my sense was so low. If you notice in all these clips while I was playing on controller, I was doing things things really slow and turtle-like, because I did this process multiple times. I told you guys I switched inputs so many times. Every single time I do it, I always learn way faster, and other people will preach the same thing. You start out going slow and doing the edit consistent as possible. In real games, you don't let people rush you. If I notice I literally can't do something because I'm forgetting where binds are, I'll go into creative and practice it. But when it comes to real games, I'll do it as slow as a snail. Over time, you will see drastic differences from when you first started to like a month in terms of how fast you're going. Things I did that made the controller process easier so I did not rage. On my streams all the time, my number one frequently asked question probably is, how do you not rage when you die? It's because, one, I truly do not care about what happens in the game. Yes, of course I want to get a good clip, but I let things go really easily. And that didn't used to happen when I was younger. I developed that mindset, and so can you. I promise you that when it comes to not raging, it all starts with not doing it once. Once you can force yourself to hold it in after one game, no matter what mistake you make on the game, when it's editing slow, not resetting something fast, you will start to think of different alternatives to how you can deal with that anger that will make it go away way faster. So to answer the question, how do I not rage? I do rage, but I let it go very quickly. I think about what I could have done in the moment to change it up so it didn't happen, so that way it won't happen next time. The secret tip to make grinding way easier, especially on the first week. What I did was I grinded my mechanics for a while. I literally spent the whole day just playing Fortnite, playing creative. And I mean like 12-hour day. The next morning I woke up, always, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's a little tip my teacher once told me, is that you learn stuff the first day you do something. You practice it for a while, you go to bed. That next day, you'll feel around 70% more confident than you did the previous day. The muscle memory really does get better within that first week. If you just put in practice, you feel comfortable, you go to sleep, you wake up the next morning, you will have learned it way better the following days and the following days. After the months go by, the process is going to be slower though, of course. But the one secret tip I did, I wanted to get good at using my pickaxe, switching guns, popping minis, reloading. What I did was play duos so that I can take a little bit of stress off myself. You don't need to hound yourself with playing solos, grinding your mechanics. You play solos, you build your game sense when you have a stronger mechanic sense. That is the simplest thing that anyone will ever tell you on Fortnite. So what I recommend, you grind your mechanics a decent amount, but you play duos a little bit when you want to take a little bit of a break, have more fun. I learned what I do wrong in real games playing creative against other people. That way, by the time the next day comes, I'll practice the specific things I was bad at on controller from the previous day. That's about all I got for you guys for controller tips. I have a lot of controller ideas, but I'm not sure if you guys want to keep seeing this content or not. I know a decent amount of my audience is probably mouse and keyboard as well. With that being said, let me know down below if you actually want to see more content with controllers. Shout out to my guy on Instagram named Bean Boy. He sent me video proof of him using my creator code in the shop. If you guys want to be featured in the next video, send me proof on Instagram or Twitter, and I'll see you in the next one. Deuces. Peace.